Welcome back to ERU, the show where we round up the biggest action from across the continent over the weekend. Joining me today is the one and only Henry Hill. How are you doing?
I'm good, McCubs. I feel like we've collaborated a lot recently across FD and EFD. If you haven't, go check out our clip about what Chelsea and the Liverpool City game yesterday over on Football Daily. But yes, great to be back with you, McCubs. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad, thanks, Henry. A little bit tired after what was a pretty big weekend of football. And we kick off today's show with a big story, a transfer rumour linking William Saliba, obviously man of the moment at Arsenal, to Paris Saint-Germain, Henry. What's going on with this? Is there much in this?
This is an interesting one, because when you mentioned it this morning, I thought, no, this is ridiculous. I can't see this happening. When you dig into it a little bit more, it's not unforeseeable that A, PSG would want him, and B, that he would consider going there. If we look at his kind of contract situation at the moment, he's one of the three kind of young starlets whose contracts expire in 2024 with Saka and Martinelli, although it looks like Saka is close to agreeing a new deal. And Martinelli, they have the option of another year on his contract, so they have time to kind of get that one over the line. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not going anywhere fast. Saliba, though, it's taken him a long time to get to this point of being that one of the first names in the defence at Arsenal. Had to go on loan to Nice, didn't he? Had to go to Marseille, where he was exceptional last season, one of the best players in Ligue 1. So he's got a load of credit over in the French League, and we're just beginning to see it now in the Premier League. I mean, he's been awesome, hasn't he? He's been exceptional for the Gunners this term. But yeah, his contract does expire, and PSG are on the hunt for a new centre-half. We all know that. Apparently one of the reasons Mbappe was very upset is that they didn't get a new centre-back in the summer window. It looked like they were going for Skriniar, but I think it was just a lot of money for a player of 1 year on his deal. And Saliba, being the age he is, and his French nationality, part of the French national team, he could be a perfect fit. And I've seen Mbappe liking his comments on Instagram, sort of cheering him on when they play together. So he's, the sporting director of PSG is certainly interested in him. I say that tongue in cheek, of course. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Marseille wanted to keep him. Sampaoli or ultimately quit as a result of it. Would he be tempted to go back to France to play for PSG? Let's not forget, dare I say, I know Arsenal fans might get at me, but as big a club as Arsenal these days, maybe even bigger, certainly going for more titles and honours on a regular basis. And I think for a Frenchman, it's always a big allure to go over and be part of that project, certainly at this moment in time. So I'm not totally shocked by it. I just think that he would want to stay. This story comes from CBS Sports, by the way. I do think that there is not... given the projection of this Arsenal team right now, I would be stunned if he was looking to move. But, PSG have the finances to make this move happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if they at least tempted the waters whilst his contract isn't secure. But what do you think, McCubs?
Yeah, like you say, Henry, this comes from CBS. I think it's, is it Ben Jacobs who was discussing this over the weekend, and he was saying that PSG have, suggesting that PSG have actually kind of made clear to Saliba that if he were to move that or want to move, that they would be willing to take him in. And yeah, that that's obviously tempting, isn't it, for a Frenchman who's, like you say, has been excellent in Ligue 1 over the last couple of years, won Ligue 1 Young Player of the Year award last season. PSG look pretty likely to win the league again, don't they? Obviously that 1-0 win over Marseille on the weekend, very, very important to their title charge. But, Arsenal are riding high at the moment. Saliba is valued, very, very highly. The Football Observatory value him at 60 million euros, which, considering his contract is up in less than 2 years, is pretty high. And given his importance to Arsenal, I think they would probably charge even more than that, even if he were not to sign by next summer. At least if they were still relatively confident that he would eventually sign on the dotted line. But obviously it is of utmost importance to them to get him tied down, I think, just to kind of fend off any interested parties, because I don't think it would be just PSG going in for him if he were not to sign. But as for PSG, considering they had a similar bid turned down by Inter for Milan Skriniar, I think it was around the 60 million mark at the end of the transfer window. Would they want to go much higher for Saliba? I mean, he is 6 years younger than Skriniar at 21. He probably has a higher ceiling than him. He's kind of on course to be kind of considered one of the best centre-backs in the world in a few years' time. He ranks in the top 5% of centre-backs for a number of metrics, including passes, pass completion, progressive carries. And obviously that's helped in some ways by this Arsenal side that is improving massively. But he really is a key player in that team. And as we saw at Marseille last year as well, a key player in that side. Neither of these teams are necessarily one of the best in the world. At least when you look at kind of progression over the last few years. So, I mean, this is a really, really special talent we're talking about.
Yeah.
And one that, Arsenal will be desperate to keep hold of, given his success at the start of the season. He's also been a threat in the final third. He's registered 2 goals and an assist already in the Premier League. But like you say, Henry, PSG are looking for that long-term replacement for Thiago Silva still. Sergio Ramos is 36, Kimpembe and Marquinhos are their only other top-level full centre-backs. So it really depends on this contract situation, I think. Until he signs, I think PSG will always, they'll always be there or thereabouts in the rumour mill. But what do you guys think at home? Do you think Saliba should take advantage of his contract situation and push for a move next summer, or should he build on his success at Arsenal? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to our result of the week.
All right, it's time for results of the week, and there's really nowhere else we could look. As you mentioned, PSG did win the Clásico against Marseille. However, big La Liga top of the table clash, and Real Madrid came out trumps 3-1 against Barcelona in El Clásico. This comes from @Leo Kovac Rakic, regular contributor. Thank you. McCubs, what a result for Los Blancos. A lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Also shout out to Frankfurt, who beat Leverkusen 5-1. We couldn't not talk about the Clásico, could we? Real Madrid very much have laid down a serious marker now in the La Liga title challenge. Obviously beat arch rivals Barcelona 3-1 in the 250th El Clásico. Barca went into the game at the Bernabeu in excellent domestic form, didn't they? They'd won 7 on the bounce in La Liga. They'd failed to concede a goal since mid-August. Ter Stegen having an absolutely amazing season. But their 3-3 draw with Inter, which was obviously preceded by a loss to them away, almost guarantees their exit from the Champions League, and it also exposed the weaknesses of their injury-ridden defence. They conceded another 3 here. With the game ultimately decided in the first half following strikes from Karim Benzema and Fede Valverde. That was Benzema's first goal in 6 games since August, and it was well deserved too. The Frenchman is averaging 5 shots per 90 this season. Obviously, it was a pretty easy goal on the rebound, but nevertheless rewarded for what has been an excellent year as well for the talisman. And Valverde just loves playing against Barcelona. He came in clutch once again. He's now scored 3 times against the Blaugrana. That's more than any other club in his career. While substitute Ferran Torres pulled one back in the final 10 minutes when Barcelona looked like they were kind of on the charge, it looked like they could really make a comeback in those final moments. Rodrigo stuck away a penalty to finish off the game and notch up his 4th La Liga goal of the season. The Brazilian youngster is on fire. We've spoken about him a lot in recent weeks, haven't we? He's registering a goal contribution every 79 minutes in the league. That's the best rate in the Madrid squad. But the game wasn't without controversy. Surprise, surprise. There were some question marks over whether Rodrigo was offside in the build-up to that penalty. Barca president Joan Laporta then entered the referee's dressing room and, quote, repeatedly requested explanations about some situations in the match, but was also, quote, invited to leave without further incident. So luckily there wasn't, it didn't come to blows. But those are quotes from the actual referee match report, by the way. Those aren't just kind of rumours in the press. Like, the referees actually noted that down. Not overly surprising. That is the kind of guy that Laporta is. Henry, I guess, Barcelona can feel somewhat aggrieved. Like, they did dominate for large parts of that game. They created a lot of chances. But Real Madrid's forward line has just been on fire recently, hasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I love that invited to leave. I think that's such a polite way of saying get out. But yeah, I mean, I can see where Laporta's grievances are coming from, although I'm not sure about those actions in general. But yeah, as you say, Barcelona were on sort of on top in terms of the attacking metrics for a lot of that game. They outshot Real 18-8 at the Bernabeu, let's not forget. They created 15 chances to 7, generated 2.3 XG to Real's 1.4. So they certainly had their opportunities. We saw Lewandowski put the ball over the bar. I think he's got a lot of grief for it, but actually he was on the stretch. It was quite hard. I mean, it was impressive to get it that high, but it wasn't as clear cut as perhaps football Twitter's making it out to be. But ultimately, Real Madrid were just more clinical in the final thirds, and I think Ancelotti, as you say, will be delighted to see a quadruple of players all getting in amongst the goals at the moment. Rodrigo, Valverde, Vinny Jr. still looks lethal. I'm surprised he didn't actually score that chance before Benzema put it away. Benzema back on the score sheet, as you say, just in time with his Ballon d'Or situation rolling around. And yeah, I saw Toni Kroos after the game say that he thinks that Valverde is one of the sort of 3 or 4 best players in the world right now. So, I mean, let us know at home, Madrid fans, what you think about that. But yeah, they were just really good in the final third. 75% of their shots coming inside the box to Barca's 66. Toni Kroos put on another absolute Rolls-Royce performance, really stepping up in the absence of Casemiro now as another sort of even greater voice in that midfield. He made 6 tackles and interceptions. That's the most on the pitch. And he took 71 touches. Only Koundé and Eric Garcia had the ball more. He was very physical. He's just got such an eye for a pass. 18.5 passes into the final third this season. I thought he was stunning. I mean, if we're looking to compliment some of the Barcelona players, Fati had a good game when he came on. 2 shots, 1 key pass, 1 dribble completed in about 20 minutes of action. It's good to see him getting up to speed again. And yeah, I mean, but it just wasn't enough ultimately. Although I do think there's a lot of positives that Xavi can take out of this situation. There was a lot of nonsense before that if they lost this game, they'll be all sort of hell raised in Barcelona as a result of that Champions League mid-fixture. But they've shown credentials in both games, enough to sort of trust in the project. I don't think it has to happen this season for all the ridiculous money they've spent. They've certainly got time on the side, this Barcelona project, Gavi, Pedri, etc. So yeah, I mean, it was just a classic clinical performance from Real Madrid, got the job done, and sort of bragging rights for the next few months. And it really has opened up a little lead at the top of that table. It'll be intriguing to see, follow this race. I don't think this is nearly done, this La Liga title race. I'm very excited to see where it's going to go. Atletico as well, getting their noses a bit closer to it after a sort of impressive win away at Athletic Club. So yeah, if we look at the sort of remaining fixtures, Real travel to Elche on Wednesday. It's a winnable game before hosting Sevilla, who aren't in great form. And Barca host Villarreal on Thursday and Athletic Club on Sunday. So if you look at those run of fixtures, you have to say Real have an opportunity to extend that mini league at the top of the table. But I mean, McCubs, any last thoughts on this game, or do you just think Real were too much?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Real were just very clinical. I think, big players stepped up. I think Barcelona on another day could have got a result here, but yeah, I think you talk about Ansu Fati. I think that's maybe my one gripe with Xavi this season, is that Ansu Fati hasn't started enough games. I think he could have really been the difference here, actually, if he had started. Gavi as well, a little bit puzzled as to why he was on the bench. He's their top presser this season, and he was an absolute live wire as soon as he came on. Yes, they were playing against a more tired side in that last half an hour, but I feel like those kind of players could have made a real difference in this game. It was a shame not to see them introduced earlier. But yeah, I think Real Madrid do have an opportunity now. Barcelona had a relatively easy run of fixtures at the start of the campaign, and now, do have a few tougher ones coming up. So yeah, the ball's really in Real's court to defend that title. But what did you guys make of that at home? Do you think this is Real Madrid setting out their stall in the title race? Do you think they are now favourites for it? Let us know, and let's move on to the Star of the Week. Finishing off with our Star of the Week, this comes from @BenFard on Twitter. Thanks for the suggestion, and it had to be Union Berlin's Yannick Harborough. Henry, I know you're a big fan of Union this season.
Yes.
Tell us more.
Yeah, a little shout out for Dusan Tadic, putting an absolute masterclass in Ajax's 7-1 demolition of Excelsior. And actually, Choupo-Moting, I thought he was so good for Bayern Munich this week. I mean, he looked like he was linking play exceptionally. But yeah, you cannot take away from this Union Berlin story. And Yannick Haberer himself, I mean, what a glow-up he's had. So obviously Union got the better of Borussia Dortmund, 2-0 at home. This extends Union's lead at the top of the Bundesliga to 4 points, after Bayern's victory. And it was well-deserved. I mean, Union have won 7 of their 10 Bully games, 2 more than any side in the division. As the commentator said, something very special is happening in Berlin right now. Long may that last. And it was a pretty stunning performances from the host. I don't think I've ever seen numbers quite like this, actually. They had 23% of possession, yet they generated 1.9 expected goals and limited Dortmund to 0.9, outshooting their opponent 16-14. And a lot of those Dortmund chances came at the end when Union were sort of defending that lead. So it's nuts. I've not seen a counter-attacking team like this in a very long time be so efficient and sort of pleasing too. Granted, their expected goals were aided by that Gregor Kobel absolute howler on the 8th minute. I felt sorry for Kobel. He's been in good form, but that left Haberer with an open goal from 2 yards out. But take nothing away from his second goal. Absolute drilled at home. I really enjoyed that strike too. And the fact they've managed 12 shots in the box, despite seeing so little of the ball, just shows how effective Union really are. But yeah, Haberer, McCubs, it's sort of come from nowhere, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was signed from Freiburg in the summer. He made just 12 Bundesliga starts over the previous 2 seasons. To be fair to him, I think he missed half of the 2020-21 season with injury, but still, like, he was not really a big player for Christian Streich last season either. But he's already started 8 times this term. He's been a real key player for Union this season. And he's creating 1.8 chances per 90. That's the best in the squad, behind Geraldo Becker, who's obviously also having a career best season. And yeah, he was obviously the star here. He followed up his opener with that excellent drive from 25 yards on the 20-minute mark. He now has 3 goals this season. That's matching his best ever return for a Bully campaign. This was also his first ever brace in the German top flight. So a lot of firsts for him this season. As for Union, they'll hope to build on their momentum this weekend when they face bottom-placed Bochum. Perfect time to play them before a huge tie against Braga in the Europa League next Thursday. I think they sit 3rd in the group, 1 point behind Braga. So yeah, they'll be hoping to also qualify for the knockout stages of the Europa. But that's all we have time for this week on Euro Roundup. Was there anyone we missed out in terms of shout outs? Let us know in the comments below. Henry, if they enjoyed this video, where should they go next?
Go check out Continental Club if you haven't already. We looked at some of the less praised wonder kids from across Europe, some great names in there. Makoko as well, who had I thought was probably Dortmund's best player in this game. So yeah, go have a look at that if you haven't already, and then sort of keep supporting EFD.
Nice one. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.